That's the other takeaways from week 4 of the 2025 NFL season. So I've been saying this over the past few weeks, and I think a lot of people disagree with me, but I think there have been less surprises in the NFL in terms of the big picture than usual throughout the past 4 weeks of the season. There are not a ton of surprises to me. Maybe the AFC North a little bit. That Pittsburgh's 3-1, Baltimore's 1-3. Yes, it's a little bit of a surprise, but also Baltimore has the injuries excuse on defense. The Colts and Jaguars are better in the AFC South than we both thought. The Texans are worse. But to me, and they're good, and he's playing really well, and they may end up being a playoff team. I don't understand the Seattle Seahawks, and I don't think I ever will. And the reason I say that is because I look at their roster, and you can argue with me about JSN, you can argue with me about Tariq Woolen and Devin Witherspoon, but the problem I have with Seattle is show me their truly defined great top 5 player at a position on their roster. And I don't think they have one. I think every other team in the league, even the bad teams like the Browns, Myles Garrett is obviously a top 5 defensive end in the league. Even Arizona, Trey McBride, he's a top 3-4 tight end in the NFL today. I don't think Seattle has a guy that you can go to at that position and go, oh yeah, he's one of the best. Jackson Smith and Jigba, probably in the top 10, maybe 9 or 10, but you don't think of him as like, oh my God, he's this great number 1 wide receiver. That's where I struggle with Seattle. I think it's a bunch of good players.
Well, they've got Tampa Bay this week, so we're going to find out more about them because they've got Tampa this week, then they're at Jacksonville next week. So that's an interesting little 2-game stretch, and then they host Houston. And then they go into their bye week, followed by at Washington on Sunday Night Football. So there you go. They play the Rams week 11, and then they will host the Rams in week 16 on Thursday Night Football. But speaking of the Rams, A.D. Mitchell, all you had to do was hold on to the freaking football. It's right there. Just go into the end zone.
Yeah, this remains a mystery to me, and I don't want to come across as douches, if you will, but I know I'm going to sound like the NFL stands for the no fun week, but I'm not the biggest fan of touchdown celebrations. I think it's kind of useless. I think it wastes a lot of energy. And I think this is inexcusable to me. You score the touchdown. I don't buy all the dancing and all the selling and all this stuff. You score a touchdown, you lay the ball down, you go back to the bench because football is hard.
Okay. Well, to add on to it, Jonathan Taylor breaks away for a go-ahead touchdown, what could have been the game-winning touchdown. And, well, A.D. Mitchell turned out to hold something. It was just the wrong thing. Maybe that didn't sound right, but you know what I mean? Because he got called for holding.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Listen, I mean, the Colts, though, listen, that could have been a game. The Rams could have blown out the Colts. You could have said, okay, the Colts Cinderella run is over. That's a game where you walk away if you're a Colts fan or the Colts and you go, we're legit contenders in the AFC South. We almost beat the Rams, and we arguably should have in Los Angeles.
Yes. And, well, the Jacksonville Jaguars, on the other hand, got
that was my upset pick of the week. I like Jacksonville to go into San Francisco and win that game. I didn't see a ton of upsets on the board personally this week, but that was one of them. And the one thing with the Jaguars is that nobody is really talking about is 2 things. Number one, their defense last year was horrific. And it's not great this year, but what they are doing is they're getting turnovers at opportunistic times. They forced 3 turnovers and going to the strip sack at the end of the game on Brock Purdy to win that game for Jacksonville.
Yes.
The other thing is this. We talked about this a little bit about Liam Cohen and is he the right guy for Trevor Lawrence after what he did with Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, we
But
were talking about what happened in that Cincinnati game where Liam Cohen was getting all emotional and Trevor Lawrence was like this. Yeah.
yeah, but as I said at the time, that's also players' mentality. But the thing is, think about this. They have not really yet implemented Travis Hunter or even Brian Thomas that crazily yet into this offense, and they're putting up points.
I cannot wait for this Monday night game. Spoiler alert, I have it at number 1 on my top 5 list.
Wow. Yeah, I will say the games this week, when we get to our top 5, it is not a great week. I will say that.
Yes, but, to add on to everything with the Jaguars and 49ers, the Jaguars were accused of legally stealing signs or something.
I didn't see this. You want to fill me in? I did not see this.
Yeah, like Robert Saleh, I think it was saying the Jaguars are like stealing signs. It was one. I'm trying to. Yeah. Like Robert Saleh and
So apparently Saleh and Liam Cohen met up after the game, and Robert Saleh said, "I will F your world up."
yes. Yeah, they had to be separated.
That's
because,
a weird.
Because Robert Saleh made remarks earlier in the week about the Jaguars legally stealing signs from opponents spilled onto the field Sunday.
That is a strange story because Robert Saleh is never really a guy that gets fired up and gets angry. That seems like a very strange story.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of details about it, but like saying the Jaguars are legally stealing signs.
By the way, bad job of the sports media world to not cover this story, by the way.
I agree with you on that one.
Because no one's talking about that. No. I didn't even hear about it.
Yeah. But, my other big takeaway with this week, really, to go back to our first topic, maybe the Dallas Cowboys are better than we thought, but you look at what we've got in the NFL, I'm disappointed in the New York Jets. I would have thought they'd be better, but then again, it's the Jets, so why should I be surprised?
That's what I'm saying. Like, even the teams that we thought, like, oh, the Jets could be better. Like, it's the Jets. You kind of expect that to happen. I will say, let me say this. We are now 25% of the way through the NFL season. I guess a little bit less because we have 18 weeks or whatever you want to call it. I think the most underplayed story so far this season has nothing to do with any NFL team. I think through 4 weeks in the NFL, early on, I would say seriously about 80% of these games are being defined by special teams.
Yeah, I agree.
The kickoff change has been tremendous, and I got to give the NFL full credit because I did not think it had that big of an impact. It has changed the way you feel about kickoffs. It has completely made the kickoff a must-watch play again. And with these blocked kicks, whether it's been punts, extra points, field goal attempts, they are completely changing not only momentum in games, they're deciding who wins and who loses games.
Yeah. And here's my other big takeaway, because I want to focus on 2 teams, the Patriots and the Falcons. Because with the Falcons, they get blown out 30-0 against the Carolina Panthers. And I get it. They were playing Marcus Mariota, not Jaden Daniels. And Washington didn't have Terry McLaurin. But still, to come out and put up 34 at home, but for me, that's still impressive considering, again, they got blown out 30-0. And then with the Patriots, you, for example, had questions about Drake May going into this season and the Patriots overall. I had them making the playoffs. You did not. And then they come out and absolutely put on a clinic against the Carolina Panthers, putting up 42 points. And you're like, where has this offense been the first 3 weeks.
How about where's this offense been in the last 5 years for New England?
Yeah.
And I think that the biggest thing for them was they did not commit turnovers. Ramondre Stevenson did not fumble. They did not commit costly penalties.
They actually used Travion Henderson this game.
Yeah, it's the 1 week I have him on my bench in fantasy football because he didn't do anything the first 3 weeks. So I decided to bench him and he ended up scoring. What are you going to do? I wasn't that surprised by Atlanta because one of my rules are if you're a good team and you get embarrassed, if you're coming back home in a dome where Michael Penix seems to be very comfortable in a dome setting, I thought Atlanta was going to play well. I thought Washington doing what they did to Vegas last week was sort of smoke and mirrors. And now we get to see how good Washington really is when they go up against a banged-up Chargers team because I know everybody fell in love with the Commanders last year because of what they did in getting to the NFC Championship game. I still am very suspect of that team's ability to get back to the playoffs.
Yeah. So with the Falcons, they're on their bye week, and then they host the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football. That is going to be a very interesting game. Especially because Buffalo is going to be coming off Sunday Night Football against a divisional opponent in the New England Patriots, and Atlanta's coming off their bye. How's that game going to play out?
I agree with you. But let's go to the AFC North. We're going to go back to it because are they really in the driver's seat to win this division?
For right now, I kind of have to say yes because they're on their bye week. And then next week, they host the Browns, who it sounds like are going to be starting a rookie quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. I thought the Browns would wait until week 7 when they host the Miami Dolphins.
You and I both did.
Yeah. I didn't think it was smart to start Dylan Gabriel at home. Don't get me started on that because I could go on a tangent for days against Brian Flores' defense. But in terms of the Steelers, yeah, I mean, they looked good offensively against the Vikings in Ireland this past week. Aaron Rodgers, at least to a certain extent, seems to have found the fountain of youth. DK Metcalf has finally put it together and is like, oh, that's the receiver we saw in Seattle. So, to a certain extent, I kind of have to say yes.
Okay. I just wanted to look this up to confirm. I believe this is right. This Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, Dylan Gabriel will become the first ever quarterback in the history of the NFL to make his NFL debut, his first ever start overseas.
Unbelievable.
So it is weird, and I agree with you that I think that for right now, you have to say the Steelers are in the driver's seat. That we said going into the year, are they going to be 9-8? Are they going to be 8-9? I think Joe Burrow's injury pushes them from 9-8 to probably 10-7. They had a weird loss week 2 against Seattle where they just forgot the special teams rule on the kickoff, which completely flipped momentum of that game. New England played them very tough in week 3, but the Steelers defense did force 5 turnovers. And then that game in Ireland on Sunday, Josh, I got to tell you this. I don't think I'm being hyperbolic at all when I make this statement. That was the best Pittsburgh Steelers game they have played since 2020.
Interesting.
They actually were able to run the football, blow the Minnesota Vikings defensive line off the ball with Kenneth Gainwell, not even Jaylen Warren in the backfield. It was a very good game plan by Arthur Smith. Give the ball to Aaron Rodgers' hands early. Don't want him to stand in the pocket. Don't want him to get in against that attacking, aggressive defense. And then that defensive line absolutely tore apart the Vikings offensive line and Carson Wentz. that was a vintage Steelers football game. And Dylan Gabriel, week 6. You better be ready. You better be wearing a Guardian cap if you think that's going to protect your head. You better be wearing some extra duct tape underneath your pads because he is going to get hits. I don't think there's any way the Browns upset Pittsburgh coming off their bye in Pittsburgh. I think the Steelers move to 4-1. And if the Ravens do play Cooper Rush and they lose to the Texans and are 1-4, it's almost mathematically impossible for anybody else to come back and win the division at that point.
Yeah. You look at the Steelers' upcoming schedule. They're on their bye week. Then they host the Browns, who have to play the Vikings in London this week and then turn around and play at the Steelers. And then they play at the Bengals on Thursday Night Football. Not that hard. Then you have the Aaron Rodgers Bowl because they host Green Bay on Sunday Night Football. Then they host Indianapolis. And then they're at the Chargers. And then they host the Bengals.
I mean, there might be 3 to 4 losses there. Maybe Packers, maybe Chargers. But that's some winnable games there for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, they can beat the Colts.
At home. You said that game's in Pittsburgh, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, that makes a big difference in my opinion. If it was in Indianapolis, I think it'd be more dicey. But the fact that it's in Pittsburgh, I hate to say it, I don't know if they're going to win a playoff game, but I think we were all wrong. And I think injuries, unfortunately, decided this division. I think the Steelers are going to win it.
Yeah. As of right now, I don't see the Steelers' toughest game being until week 13 when they host the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. And remember that game in 2020, week 1, when they went into Buffalo and won?
Yeah.
We saw what happened a couple years ago in the playoffs. I don't know if they can face Buffalo again and win, but that's not the here nor there.
Yeah, that game is in Pittsburgh, by the way. But like I said, you look at their schedule, like Green Bay, okay. The Chargers, given their offensive line issues, Pittsburgh should have their way defensively with LA.
I was trying to find out the word on Joe Alt. Did we hear what the update is on Joe Alt?
I have not heard, but the Chargers, to kind of go back to our biggest takeaways, the Chargers' offensive line is just beaten to all hell and back.
The guy Becton, their right guard, is also hurt, by the way.
Yeah, Justin Herbert. It's like they saw what he did in the first 2 weeks and just gone Justin Herbert crazy.
Well, they've had to because they can't run the ball because they don't have an offensive line.
Yeah, but I want to touch on this. Jackson Dart played well for the Giants.
I thought he played okay. I thought he played a really good first half. I did not think he played well in the second half, especially once Neighbors left the game.
Yeah, that'll make a huge difference when your best player leaves the game with a torn ACL.
Absolutely, yeah. But I don't think it's sustainable. Like, I think the Giants could lose this weekend to the Saints. It would not surprise me.
I mean, the Saints
are favored. I mean, think about that. The Saints are favored in a football game.
Here's what I'll say about the Saints. They're not terrible, but they're not good. They're average.
They're pretty terrible who played an unbelievable game against Buffalo.
Well,
that's how I'll word it.
It came down to the wire against San Francisco, and they should have beaten Arizona week 1.
I could make a case Arizona had control of that game. San Francisco was a weird one because I don't really think San Francisco is that good. And who knows, maybe Arizona's not that good.
I've heard people saying San Francisco, when healthy, is a top 5 contender.
No, they're not. Because everybody loves Kyle Shanahan. Everybody loves the Niners. Oh, my God. They're not better than Philly. They're not better than Detroit. They're not better than Green Bay. They're not better than Tampa. They're not better than the Rams when healthy.
They might not be better than Seattle. Although
well, all they do is beat Seattle. That's the hard part.
That part is true. By the way, did you see that the 49ers Buccaneers game got flexed into the 4:30 slot.
I did see that. That a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Bengals, I believe, are going to be playing the Packers, I believe, in that spot. And it's going to be Jake Browning. So
yes. Although I think it wasn't Bengals Packers that was flexed out of that 4:30 slot. It was a different game.
No, it was Patriots Saints. And that's because that game can obviously be a 1:00 game.
Yes.
Speaking of, go ahead.
And yet, for some stupid reason, on my TV guide, instead of showing me 49ers Buccaneers, they're going to show me Bengals Packers. Yay!
That's because you're in the Ohio area, as am I.